First things first, my prayers and condolences to Officer John Diller and his family of the NYPD. His death was meaningless and senseless, but it also underscores the dangers that police officers put themselves through on the streets day in and day out to protect and serve. And it's really unfortunate that that sacrifice was marred by the presence of Donald Trump, a man who's no longer the President of the United States, who has never, ever supported police officers. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you prime examples of the hypocrisy of him being at that funeral, and more to the point, as to why the families should be ashamed of having him there. In and around social media, and here are just a few posts to illustrate the hypocrisy of this. Donald Trump these people are eating it completely up about Donald Trump showing up to this officer's funeral. And frankly, it's kind of pathetic. They praise him, they bow their knees to him, and worse yet, they try to malign President Biden, who was in New York City at the same time doing a fundraiser, which he raised over $25 million for his campaign. Now, mind you, I understand some of it because President Biden is the president and he probably should have been there. However, something like this is too somber to make into a political event. Something like this is just too important to make politics out of, and this is what these people have done, as you can see in these tweets. These people actually really believe that Donald Trump actually cares for this officer. He doesn't. And I'm going to give you some prime examples as to showing he doesn't really care about cops. And unfortunately, I have to use this prime example. January 6, 2021, the day that Donald Trump dispatched a murderous, violent mob to the United States Capitol in order to try to overturn the results of an election, which he lost. 140 officers were injured that day, including several brain injuries, broken bones, stabbings, and unfortunately, five of these Capitol officers, killed themselves because they couldn't deal with what happened. Not to mention an entire party of people, and yes, I'm talking about the maga Republicans, who did absolutely nothing to help them, who maligned them, even denying them, even the smallest thing, denying them the Congressional Gold Medal, because a lot of them didn't like the idea of it being called an insurrection, when it was an insurrection. But let me remind you as to how much Donald Trump backs the blue, and how much that's all bullshit. In July of 2017, as part of Trump's administration efforts to cut off federal support for sanctuary cities, his administration held $257 million hostage that was allocated for the Brain Justice Assistance Grant, which was a program to help states and local governments pursue their own public safety priorities, from either gun and gang violence to substance use treatment and victim service support. Back to blue, right? Well, in 2018, the Brain Jag funding was slashed by 11%, or $43 million. And the House GOP went even further, proposing to cut funding for cops hiring programs to zero. In 2019, the Trump administration's budget plan proposed a nearly 50% cut to the cops hiring program, which helped hire local police officers. Back to blue, right? In this year, 2024, 8 police officers, excluding, of course, Officer Diller, were killed this year alone. 8 officers. What did Donald Trump do for those officers? For Justin Smith? He had a rally in Iowa. For Jeremy Malone? He called a press conference in which he bitched about being prosecuted. Greg McCown? He posted about on Truth Social about the support for Russia attacking NATO allies unless they paid. Nevada Criney? He had a rally in North Carolina. Matthew Rugg? He spoke at CPAC along Paul Emerstead spoke at CPAC. Cody Allen. He met with Viktor Orban, a dictator. Justin Hale. He played golf. Donald Trump didn't show up to any of their funerals. He didn't post about any of them on Facebook or Twitter or Truth Social. Excuse me, I don't know if he's still on Twitter or Facebook. Probably not. But what gets me is not that I'm not downplaying Officer Diller, but what made him so special? What made him so special for Donald Trump to show up at his funeral? Obviously, because President Biden was campaigning with former President Obama and former President Clinton for the 2024 campaign. So none of this, he doesn't care about cops. He was trying to upstage and outstage Biden. He doesn't care about police officers. He never, ever did. In fact, he's done things and said things to malign police officers and law enforcement and the criminal justice system altogether, all because he's being investigated and, more to the point, he's being held accountable for his actions. But I think the one comment from social media that really irks me is from Caitlyn Jenner. Now, right now, everybody knows who Caitlyn Jenner is. He used to be Bruce Jenner, Olympian gold medalist. Her decision, transition, whatever the fuck, don't care. Although it does make me sick to my stomach that she supports the very people who want people like her, transsexuals, in fact, the entire LGBTQ, put to death, and those who support them put to death. Although that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, she posted this with a photo, obviously, of Donald Trump making the whole funeral into a press conference. Back in the Blue should never be a partisan, but the day Biden was fundraising in New York with Obama and Clinton, an absolute disgrace. Proud of both my friends, my amazing patriots, real Donald Trump, NASA, and Nassau exec Bruce, for standing up for law enforcement, for law and order, and a family in mourning. Jenner, you can't be that stupid. You seriously cannot be that fucking stupid. You see, what bothers me about this simple fact is that you know Donald Trump has had a very bad history of disrespecting people, disrespecting police officers and law enforcement and criminal justice in altogether. And now you're angry because President Biden wasn't there. President Biden knows what it's like to lose someone close to his family, and that is too much of a sacred thing just to have someone just show up out of the blue. But obviously, you wouldn't know anything about that, considering the fact that you're whoring yourself out to Donald Trump. And again, I'm not going to get into it this video, but you are actively supporting Republicans, the MAGA, who want to see people like you, because you're a transsexual, dead. literally dead. But that's an issue for another time. Donald Trump has never respected police officers, but yet he shows up at one police officer's funeral, just one. And all of a sudden, he's law and order. He's Mr. Law and Order. He wasn't anywhere near the funerals of the officers who took their own lives after the nightmare he unleashed on January 6th. Nor he was at any of the funerals of the police officers that died under his watch during his presidency. He didn't show up to anyone's funeral. He didn't show up to any funerals of the war dead during his watch. He practically had to be forced to make a phone call to the soldiers who were lost in Niger. And he disrespected the widows as well afterwards. You see what bothers me about Donald Trump and his followers, and a lot of them you saw examples of here, is that Donald Trump can do anything he wants. Disrespect anyone he wants, especially those who wear the badge and the gun. And these people will just let it go. But he shows up to one funeral of one police officer in the NYPD, and they're falling on their knees for him. That's what we're facing in 2024. The complete and total disrespect of law enforcement by the man they worship. Don't let it happen. He does not deserve to be president of the United States again, just because he showed up to one funeral. One funeral. I don't know how many dozens. It's a shame. CTP, know the truth. God bless. Peace to the left. Justice to the right.